not interested in any of that, dude. He says, it's a lease, and I'm way overdue for the oil change while I'm here getting the snow tires put on. Do my oil change. That was it. He didn't care. The MPI does take time, especially now with the way they want them done, where, I mean, let's be real, for 20 years, I just did it with a check mark on a sheet and I handed it in, and I didn't take pictures and film videos and all that kind of stuff. Now that process is much longer. Should we still be doing an MPI for a customer that's declining work every time we're trying to sell it?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting, thought-provoking episode of the Jaded Mechanic Podcast. My name's Jeff, and I'd like to thank you for joining me on this journey of reflection and insight into the toils and triumphs of a career in automotive repair. After more than 20 years of skin knuckles and tool debt, I want to share my perspectives and hear other people's thoughts about our industry. So pour yourself a strong coffee or grab a cold Canadian beer and get ready for some great conversation.
Yeah, so I bought the Vantage mostly to have it for when you would go to the troubleshooter section in your MT2500 or your Solus, and it would say, test the component this way. And I'll tell you right now, honestly, 100%, I had it. I never used it. That Vantage I think I've used it on one car one time.
Oh, I was spoiled. I had the MT2500 from Master Tech. So I had that and the Sun LS200. I had the big, stupid $25,000 lab scope with the best parade pattern. I will say I was really lucky because I had John Thornton, Roland Trowbridge, Bill Fulton. I had all these guys that I could go to classes with. I went through all my papers. I had 180 of them classes that I learned so much from them guys. And I didn't realize how big a popular man John Thornton was till I started, going to Vision, and like all these people are like, John Thornton? I'm like, yeah, I've been to like 15 Thornton classes. Like he used to come and update my Tech 2 and stuff after class. And, we'd sit and talk for hours, man. That guy is super genius.
Yeah. It's
super genius.
It's just some people have it in them. You know what I mean? Like, to be a tech, all of us do. But then it's like, it's that saying that there's levels to everything. And I think there's just, I think him and Brendan Steckler and,
oh, wow.
Some of the names escape me at the moment, but I mean, they're just all, thinking at Justin Morgan, guys like that, Seth Thorson, their brains just operate at a way different plane. And I mean, it's, I don't know. I want to say it's almost more like an engineering level approach versus just a repair level approach.
Yeah, I'm a methodical pattern failure. Like, this is what I've seen. This is what I know. I'm an A- tech at my best. I have, there for a long time. Yeah, I was a head diag guy at all the shops I've been at. But when you start hanging around with a Thornton and a Fulton and, Linder Tech guys, like, no, I'm not. I suck. I mean, like, there's a difference, man.
It's not just suck. It's just efficiency. You know what I mean? Like, it takes some of us probably, I'll say, a couple hours to eliminate 90%. And those guys eliminate 95% in about 15 minutes. And then you just sit back and you're like, how did you do that? And some of it is critical thinking. And then other parts of it is just like, some of it's experience, like I keep saying all the time, the perfect path for this industry as we all age out, as we continue to remember what it feels like, smells like, tastes like, and go that path. So it's like you don't go down a wormhole every time. I worked with brilliant techs, but they couldn't remember the pattern failure 6 months later.
That's something that saves me.
And yeah, because I was the type where I could remember the splice under the carpet 5 years later. You know what I mean? Like, I could remember that splice doing that symptom on that vehicle 5, 10, 15 years later. Why? Because it probably kicked my butt to find it. You know what I mean? Or it's one of those things where it's like, what jackass engineer ever thought that this was a smart idea to put this here? And it burns in my brain. Those guys, it's like, they don't necessarily even get so much experience. I think it's just it has to be this because it always works like that, and then they just roll with it. You know what I mean? They develop this process. I I rely so much on instinct and confidence. That's a big part of it. You know what I mean? It really is.
Yeah.
If you're confident that, well, it can't be X, Y, and Z. It can't be because of
Yeah.
whatever reasons you have. So I'm going to go with A. And people look at you and it's like, how did you know that? Well, did I 100% know? But I gambled really well. You know?
Yeah. An educated guess.
So how did that shop, what's the, you said you built yourself a pretty good reputation, all referral based, that kind of stuff. What happened?
It's actually still going. It's going really well too. We just ran it up for a long time. Wife got sick, father-in-law got sick, got divorced. It was like I needed more time to run my wife and father-in-law back and forth to doctors. So I started feeling guilty about, being a shop owner and never there and gone all the time. So it was just time to try something else. I was burnt out too. Not gonna lie. We did a little 3 base shop. We did $1.18 million out of it. Super efficient. 127% was the average for the year. That's how we made our money. Super efficient, and our labor rate was still just barely at $100. So luckily, I took two management or coaching courses that really helped me out. Like I preach on the web pages, coach, get a coach, get a coach, only because I know so many shop owners that are like, I'm a week out, like I'm done. Like there was twice I was, next week on Friday we're shutting the doors, I'm done. We're not doing this no more. And it was simple things, just turn it around, and people get in their own head and don't want to listen. And it's like these guys have seen 50 shops go under, but they've saved 500. So even if you only take two things from it, just take it and run with it. Don't argue with them.
Can I ask you who your coaches were?
The very first one was Management Success out of California. I think they're Drive now.
Okay.
That was, some people didn't like them because of the whole religious thing. I could give a crap less. I'm here to make money and learn. So I didn't let that bother me. The second one was ATI.
Okay.
The first one we doubled. ATI we doubled again. It was amazing. Just, somebody accountable. Just, hey, did you do this? No. Oh crap. Here's why your numbers suck.
Yeah.
And I had an awesome coach who wasn't afraid to say, hey, stupid, don't do that again. Or you need to do this. And then if I didn't do it, it was, you are going to do this. And that really helped push us to the next level. Well, everybody's scared to raise their labor rate. Everybody's scared. You can't do that in my town. Bull crap. If they say you can, you can.
Do you find in your area it was always, because I say it all the time, for around here forever, it seemed like dealerships dictated everything. Dealerships dictated the labor rate. Dealerships dictated the technician pay in terms of hourly, right? And then everybody that walked out of a dealer got paid less because, well, we're not going to flat rate you. Or, if you were paid, if you went to a chain store that was flat rate, it was still less than a dealership, but they probably told you, hey, these cars are all out of warranty, so you're going to make more hours. Did you find that? Like, were you ever at one point higher than the dealer?
Oh yeah. We ended up being, people were calling us to set their labor rates. It took years for me to get to that point, but there come a time where, you know what, we're 3 weeks, we're a month out. They said raise your labor rates till 3 people complain, and it's like we raised it until nobody complained. But boy, I was feeling like I was feeling it hard in my heart. And within us raising the labor rate like $10-15 over the dealer, within a year, everybody's caught up with us. And then guess what? We're going to raise ours up again. So we paid the most. Our technicians made more than anybody else. Everybody was hourly, but they turned 50, 60 hours a week, 70 hours a week hourly, but they made real good money, more than the dealerships made. Our hourly rate was higher than everybody. We had the first air conditioned shop in the area. So, my guys' Christmas bonuses were like $2,500, $3,000. They were good bonuses. They were good things. Take care of my guys.
Yeah.
So they had the same guys there forever. So nobody quit.
And you sold this shop?
Yep.
Yeah. Because
sold it, walked away, went did some other things there for a while. I took a job where I could drive truck and deliver stuff, but I could take off whenever it was. I was an independent contractor.
Right.
So if I had to run my wife, 3 hours to a doctor's appointment, father-in-law was doing chemo 2 times a week. So, for me, family come first. So it was, gotta go.
Yeah. And what did you, when you sold it, did you feel like I'd never be able to get back to that? Like, was that a fear of some people when they sell, is that I'll never be able to build the second one, back to where the first one was?
Actually, not for me. Because, like I said, it was a successful shop. We had it. It was lean and mean and running good. I actually did try to start one, but I tried to start it back too soon, and my heart wasn't in it. I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to pull the commitment. My wife was still not right. Family wasn't quite right. So I ran that for a while, and then somebody else just said, "Hey, I'd like to buy your business." And it was like, well, I could keep going, or screw it, I'll go out again. So I sold another shop, made some more money. So it was one of them ones. If you're not willing to put in 80-hour weeks, starting one up, don't even attempt it.
Really?
Yeah. There's so much more. Everybody thinks, well, I turned 60 hours a week. Well, guess what? When you go doing it for yourself, you're the service writer, you're the plumber, you're the electrician, you're the porter, you're everything. You can't turn 60 hours again unless you work 100, 120. So be willing to sacrifice a little, but
you mentioned earlier, coach. You mentioned earlier you felt guilty sometimes about not being there. Did you ever get to that level where you were the absentee owner, or were you always very?
I love it too much. Mm-hmm. I don't think I could ever be an absentee owner. I'm a car guy. I love cars, everything about cars. Like I'm that freak of nature nut where, when I go on vacation, it's to a car show. Hot Rod Power Tour. That's a vacation to me. Hang around cars all day long.
Yeah.
If it was just nothing about cars, that's all I do all day long.
See, I used to have such a passion for it, and people that know me and have known me a long time, it's just like now a lot of that passion has gone away. Like I would love to be around the fun cars, but people that know me and have heard me, like the enthusiasts sometimes really get on my nerves. You know what I mean? Like I can't stand them. And I guess it comes from, because if you spend enough time on the internet, like I do, or too much time on the internet, you see a lot of the time the enthusiasts start to really troll the professionals.
Oh, right? Yeah.
And that always drove me nuts. So it's like, when everybody says, I got a 10-second car in the backyard and built it up from nothing, and cool story, bro. It doesn't mean that you're what I do, right? So I've always like, when I want to get away on vacation, I don't want to think about cars. It's not that I don't love them. It's just that type of person always kind of was like, I don't know how much patience I would have to spend around them for a week, on a power tour, or even going to, it's the same as me as going to a car show, like even like a Sunday afternoon walk around the fairgrounds, look at everybody, wiping on a Corvette with a diaper and all that kind of, like, I can't, because there's just so much. Some of those cars are not being used, first of all. And that's always the thing. Is that it's like, I don't, your number is your number. Whatever you say it runs is cool. But somebody at some point better have seen you run it, or you be able to prove that you ran it, or else I don't want to hear your mess. I don't want to hear your bull, your BS, right? I'm much more into the stuff that you can look at and you can tell it's been used, right? Like, it's like, Jeep guys. I understand Jeep guys much better than I understand drag racers, because Jeep guys, not the mall crawlers. I'm talking the guys like have got the dents and the bruises and the scratches and the tore the fender off, because they're using it. They're using it for what they want to do. So many of the guys at the car show scene, it's just like it's like a wallet show. Look at the money they have, That's always where I think at some point I lost my passion for the industry from that side of it, because of the enthusiasts. Just, once everybody got online and started to be an expert like myself, it was really hard to allow them to be who they were without always challenging them, right? Because you and I, like you mentioned before we started recording about how I would just, you see me tear into some people in groups and yourself and everything else, and it's like, see, for me, I just think like when I'm typing, it's as if we're having this conversation just like this. The mannerism and the delivery is all meant to come across just like this. Very friendly, very casual, very like, but it doesn't come across that way, right?
Yeah.
Because, I don't mean to seem like a bully or, chew someone's ass. It's just very blunt and to the point of this. Okay, this is what I think. And then the conversation is supposed to go back to that person. They're supposed to continue to push their, point of view and get their point across. And sometimes, people pull the plug and don't. And then I feel like, I think everybody thinks I walk away thinking I won. I don't think I won. I'm like, crap, I don't have anybody to play with. What happened? Like, where did they go? I'm genuinely interested when I'm having these conversations with people that to be engaged, to hear their points. So,
yeah. That's what I like, because I'll be honest, like Changing the Industry, ASOG, some of the podcasts I got into, they kind of steered me back into the industry a little bit more. Yeah. I love helping other shops. I would love to be a coach someday. I just think that would be an awesome job. I'm very blunt. I'm very Dutch-like. Like, tell you like it is, and that's it. You might not like it. Like, if somebody asks a question, I'll tell you if I did something stupid. I ain't afraid. Like, hell yeah, I made a mistake. I made $500,000 mistakes.
But you've got a resume that shows that you come from a place where you've built success multiple times, like you said, right? So I mean, I can't wrap my head around the people that genuinely want help, genuinely need help. But when you say to them, okay, you got to do these 3 things, and they go, the first thing out of their mouth is I can't, or I won't, or why? Well, there's no point in asking. Why is always a good question, but you've got to think about why asked too many times to somebody that has gone higher up the mountain than you. At some point, you got to abandon the why question and just put trust in that person that they're going to show you the path up that mountain, because they want you there with them, right? That's the thing. You genuinely seem like, you want shops to be successful. I genuinely want technicians to make more money, have better, treatment, all that kind of stuff. I genuinely do it. Sometimes when it's like, it seems like I'm calling out owners or I'm calling out techs for being, people think I'm calling them out lazy. I'm not calling you out saying you're lazy. I know you went to work today and worked hard. All of us do. But I want you to think the long game, which is you're sailing by right now on the fact that your body's, not too banged up. You're into a couple pattern failures and get some money on. But think about where this is going and the fact that you can't turn 20 hours a day anymore. We can't all hump trannies and engines in real fast like we used to. Yeah. We have to develop that next level of being the problem solver, being the diagnostic guy, right? You want to get to be, people hear me say all the time, you want to get to where you're the go-to guy in your shop. You want to be, if in it, either you want to be the go-to shop or you want to be the go-to tech within a shop. That's what makes you, I say all the time, make yourself indispensable to where they have to set their labor rate. They have to set the whole culture within the shop should be set around making sure that key player, whatever you want to call him, captain of the team, whatever, is happy and is productive and for all intents and purposes, a successful individual. If you have that, the morale takes care of itself, you know. And I've been known for a lot of people calling a lot of guys out. And you know, as I've been involved in the changing the industry and start talking to shop owners take me. Some of them absolutely love it, and then others absolutely just like have no use for me, none. You know, I'm sure Lucas gets messages daily. David, I'm sure too. They're like, "Why do you let that guy, you know, say what he does and act the way he does?" But you know, I'm not trying to say that you're a piece of garbage because you run your shop this way. I'm just trying to say, hey, I'm speaking for a lot of technicians out there, and they may not be coming to you and saying, I feel like this, but I can pretty much guarantee you they probably feel the way I felt at some point, and they don't know how to say it to you. So I'm going to speak up and say it.
Yeah, don't be surprised if they all just walk out one day.
Yeah, you know, when we talk about the oil changes and free MPIs and stuff like that, right? All these different issues that have popped up. People look at me and they go, "I can't believe you're saying that to owners." And I'm like, "Show me why, you know, that I'm not wrong. Show me that I'm wrong when I say that essentially you're using them to market your business." And they go, well,
it's lost leaders.
Yeah, right. So. And it's a funny, Lucas and I talk about it all the time because there's still a very big, Dutch is a proponent of, you know, having a very cost effective oil change because it drives work in the shop. It drives customers into your shop. And like as somebody that you had that guaranteed fix, you know, $150 an hour diagnostic charge way back when, do you use both in your business approach or
now?
Yeah.
Or well, now they do things we do things a little differently. We do like level 1 through 4, like half an hour to 2 hours, depending on what it is. So we just get an upfront diag fee, and that's what it is. Most things like check engine lights, it's an hour, so it's a level 2. If it's something small, it's a level 1. But the oil changes are the cheapest, full synthetic, best of the best, and it's $39.25 out the door.
Wow.
So we have an dedicated oil change guy. Not the business model I would have picked, but I tell you what, it works.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they did things here that I didn't approve of, but after doing it a while, like all the techs make their own quotes.
Yeah. Okay.
If you'd have told me 5 years ago that all the techs made their own quotes, I'd have said that's stupid, and it gives them an opportunity to move on. I did my own quotes way back when I started, and it gave me the opportunity to open my own shop because I built up my own customers. I called my own customers. I ordered parts. I did everything, but I was hourly. So, you know, that made it easier for me. And here, all the techs make their own quotes. The service writers don't screw it up, so you don't have everybody wanting to fist fight daily because, you're screwing me out of 2 hours. And it fixes a lot of problems that you don't realize.
Yeah.
So I'm still an hourly proponent, but with an hourly shop, you need a good manager. So flat rate can be easily put in any shop, and it kind of runs itself. But I don't know. I think an hourly shop has higher morale, better people. That's just my opinion of every shop I've seen. But I've seen both hourly and flat rate shops run like crap because of poor management. So
flat rate can work. I mean, I did it for a long period of time. I've never done it in a situation where it's multi-makes and multi-models. You know what I mean? Like always did flat rate from a dealer standpoint. So I only had to know one product line, right? And I had to know it really well, but I only had to know one. And, you know, I see flat rate and I see, you know, it's the conversation I don't think is ever going to go away because I think you've got, you know, so many proponents for both sides of it. But I will say that like for an hourly to work, all the processes have to be absolutely on point, right? Like you can't have a weak advisor. You can't have a weak tech. You can't have a weak, you know, parts system. All of it has to be bang on. I never appreciated how critical an advisor role was until I got into an hourly shop where the hourly shop paid well. You know what I mean? Like I see
Yeah.
lots of advisors that are substandard, but the whole shop then is paid substandard because they're
Yeah.
not efficient. When we see it's like, okay, they're going to start paying, $40 an hour. That advisor has to be right on point to be able to keep everything so efficient from the parts ordering to the charging enough. It's crazy because we could see it in the dealer all the time. It wasn't, they'd hire people that had dealerships, would hire advisors that had no advisor training, no advisor experience. Last week, they make the joke, but last week they were at Tim Hortons selling coffee. And this week they're working in the service drive. And people laugh, but it's a true story. I saw it happen several times because they're hiring based on people skills, soft skills. When those people, it can work because if you screw it up, then they don't make any commission, which
Yeah.
they may not even necessarily care because if you're paying them, a buck more than they were making selling coffee, what do they care about commission? They're already up money. And if they screw up, the tech doesn't get paid. And when we all kind of stood around as flat rate techs and said, well, that's just part of the whole, give some to get some. I was never about that. You know what I mean? It's like I worked it, but frig sakes, if there was a line on the work order, it had to have labor on it. It didn't matter what it was. It had to be, otherwise there was no point in writing it down. You could not write it down and hand it off because that's a job if it wasn't intending to pay labor for it. It sounds very simple when you break it down and say it, but so many people don't grasp that. I talk to guys that work in dealers still, and they're like, well, we're forced to do the 300% rule at my dealership, and we're forced to do the MPI, but they don't pay us for the MPI. And I'm like, don't do the MPI then. And they're like, what do you mean? We have to do it. I'm like, no, you don't. You don't have to do it. You have to address the customer's concern, what it came in for. And if they're not going to put value into the MPI by paying you for it, you don't have to do it because it's illegal, first of all, in a lot of states. If something is tasked for you as a requirement of your job, that has to be paid for. Now, I understand when we work flat rate, it's a different thing and all that kind of jazz. But I mean, for me, when we did our, quote unquote, way back then, like our seasonal package, which is an oil change, a tire rotation, a 15, 20 point inspection of a brakes and all that kind of stuff with the tire rotation. We knew what it paid. It paid 0.8. We had the process down. That was it. When I see these guys now and it's like they want me to pull, tires off and do an inspection and the car is there for a software update, I just kind of shake my head and go, what would be the point? That customer, if it's already coming in, it's got a fresh oil change sticker from somewhere else. That customer, you can't tell me really is all that interested in what you're trying to find on that car, right? I think it's just a situation of they are using it as a liability thing so the customer doesn't drive out and go next week when the brakes start squealing, hey, you never told me about it. My car was just in your shop. Your car was in for a software update on a recall, right? We didn't test drive the car. We didn't look at the brakes. We didn't do any of that. Now it's like all of a sudden this 300% rule is trickled into every car gets an MPI. I don't want to do an MPI if I'm not getting paid for the MPI, right? I understand the whole idea of the dealership has to sell all kinds of work, but I feel the front counter should be really on point with like, okay, you're here for your recall today on your software update. Who's doing your maintenance on your car recently? Like what's been done? It's got 50,000 miles on it. Ford would like to see this done at 50,000 miles. Are you interested in doing that today? Customer says no. It doesn't matter what the MPI finds. They already have made it up in their mind that you're not the one for me to do it. But if the customer, so that's where I always felt the MPI thing works great when the advisor really understands the process, and
Yeah,
then
I'm a soft sell kind of guy. So when I sold service, it was, hey, here's what we have to do. Here's what you should do. And I always scheduled people out. Like when they would come in for an oil change, I would had a little old school paper book. I had a little post-it note on there for, 3 months down the road. Hey, I'm going to write you down for this day. You want me to go ahead and get the tranny flush done and we'll just knock them out one at a time?
Mhm.
You sold so much more work off that, just pre-selling it for down the road. But a lot of places now are like, get it all 300%, hammering with everything. And it's like, man, nobody asks the questions at the front counter, like you're saying. Nobody asks them, hey, how are you on maintenance? Nobody builds a relationship. It's
Mhm.
in, boom, slam them with a bunch of stuff and push them out the door. Like,
Yeah, like
then
we
they
had a
don't come back.
no, and we had a customer in on Thursday because we don't work Fridays, 4-day week, and
Lucky.
I love it. It's
I'm
awesome.
pushing it, but it ain't working.
I can understand why it doesn't. It makes for a long day. It really does. But we had a customer in on Thursday, and it's like we did the whole MPI on his truck. He needed an air filter, cabin filter. Brakes had never been serviced. It's a Ford, it's 3 years old. 60,000 kilometers on it. It's used on a farm truck. So we're like, it needs, and he's like, I'm not interested in any of that, dude. He says it's a lease. Why would I do anything to it? I'm just here to get my snow tires on, and I'm way overdue for the oil change while I'm here getting the snow tires put on. Do my oil change. That was it. He didn't care. So I look at that and I struggle with it really hard because it's like the MPI does take time to do, especially now with the way they want them done. Where I mean, let's be real. For 20 years, I just did it with a check mark on a sheet, and I handed it in. And I didn't take pictures and film videos and all that kind of stuff. Now that process is much longer. Like
Yeah.
we're actually trying to get somebody to shake the wheel, see the tie rod loose, get a video of that, upload it to
Yeah.
the tech metrics so that the customer can see it. It's a wonderful tool, but it slows the process down substantially. And I struggle still, Jeremy, with the customer. If I immediately get the sense or the feeling or the customer, like we can look in history and there's, a bunch of declined work. Should we still be doing an MPI for a customer that's declining work every time we're trying to sell it?
Yeah, because I make my guys check the history on them, see Carfax, what's been done.
Mhm.
And like, if it's going to be a really rough car, I don't have a problem going out telling a customer, like, look, the frame's rotted on this thing. Dump the oil, get it out of here. Don't put any more money in it. But some places are just bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
So, and then a lot of these coaching companies, or some of the coaching companies, I'll say, are all about don't pay your guys for inspections because that's where they make their money. And it's like, come on, man. I struggle with that. Like, our guys still get paid for an inspection,
Mhm.
even though, it's against certain rules and stuff. But, they're spending their time, they're inspecting this thing. And some of these cars are, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. They're rough. And getting a technician who's used to quality to stop, like, hey, dude, when you get to $3,000, stop. Or let them know that they might need more. But I don't know you. Me as a tech and most of my guys, like, when they get going, they don't want to stop halfway through. Like, I didn't find everything. So it's a fine line. It's hard to hit that line.
I struggle with the cabin air filter thing because it's like, how that goes. Some of them, you pull them out, try to take them out, right? But like,
Yeah.
they want a picture of a cabin air filter that's dirty before we sell it to the customer. And I'm like, okay, it used to look like an accordion and now it looks like a pizza box because like, it all the pleats pulled out of it. I just dumped a bunch of stuff all over their floor,
Or in the blower motor and now it vibrates and shakes.
Well, that drives you crazy because now you're doing a repair. Now you're doing a repair that the customer didn't want, and you're doing it to restore the car back just because
they declined that same cabin air filter.
Yeah.
So you got to put it back in there.
And I'm old and I'm sore and it's hard for me to get under a dash anymore and get some of them out. And you know how it is, like you're laying on your back, feet on the, floor, upside down, head jammed up underneath a blower box, trying to snap that lid back in on the Nissans are the worst, man. I just curse those things. So it's like most of the time if I do an MPI, it's like I don't check off that I check the cabin air filter. I look at it and I pull the engine air filter and I go, if it's dirty, I recommend the engine air and the cabin. And we're trying to, at my shop, we're trying to get on to where it's like we can get the customers back. We know that we've checked it like 3 months ago. We replaced it. You don't need to pull them out. They do not need a cabin air filter every 3 months.
No.
Like, once, twice a year tops. We're not living in a particularly like dense pollen area where I am. Like, I mean, we got snow 6 months of the year. So it's like, you're not getting those, they're not filling up with a lot of stuff. Now, if customers are negligent and you see it all the time, like the leaf litter on the cowl and stuff like that, pine needles, and and people are not keeping the car clean, yeah, I can understand how they get dirty, but I still look at it as like, if it doesn't smell, the blower motor's not making noise, and the airflow is still pretty good, it's probably still okay. Like,
Yeah.
we,
And don't recommend it just on mileage. Like,
yeah,
if you ain't going to pull it out, just don't even mark it. Just,
yeah,
if you're using tech metric, put it in grade. We didn't even look at it.
yeah.
Like, don't tell them it's good and we didn't even pull it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and people have got to be expecting that now, because the quick lube places, they pull them out of every car every time. And people are like, well, why did they do that? Because they're doing that loss leader oil change at, Jiffy Lube, because they need to sell the filter. That's why they do it. That's why their oil change is priced the way it is. Not that their oil changes are priced any lower here. Our oil
Ours
changes
are stupid priced.
yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah,
But
it's $100 for an oil change at our Jiffy Lube. Like, how are you going there? Like, you go to the dealership and get it cheaper.
Mhm.
We're doing it for $39.25. Like, oof.
Yeah. But you call up the dealer and they're like, well, we can see it, 2 weeks from now, right? Like, because when we get you in, whereas Jiffy can like, oh yeah, pull right up, we'll get you in right now. So how do you come up with your pricing, Jeremy, to offer convenience but still make it profitable?
We have an oil change guy, so he gets less labor than like your typical tech. And what I actually started doing is on the air filters and stuff, like we just mark them up like $10. I go book time and I knock the labor rate down to like $50 an hour. So we make like $20 on an air filter. That's it. Right. Same with cabin airs, because I don't want them going home and changing them. So it's not a loss leader, but it helps the oil change guy get $20, $30, $40, $50 more. So instead of, us making $4 on an oil change, now we can make $25, $30. So it makes it a little bit easier. We give him an hour to do it. Right. So that and a tire rotation, is like another $25. So most of the techs hate doing oil changes, not their favorite thing to do. So I look at the schedule and I try to schedule cars that haven't been in here before, that are a little bit older. That's the cars that go to my, techs.
Yeah.
The 2021, 2022, yeah, that's going to my oil change guy. We just had it in 3,000 miles ago. It didn't need nothing. That's the thing that's going to the oil change guy. So it helps to not lose as much. So I'm trying to wow them when they come in. I mean, we have a beautiful showroom. We have like 20 loaner cars. Like,
wow.
We offer a lot of value in our stuff. So we are one of the higher shops in the area. And all the little extras we do, we try to, have a higher warranty than anybody around. So the oil change gets them in the door. Hopefully they like our service. The porter, everybody here is super nice. So that's how we turn it around and from a loss into something actually good.
Yeah. Do you work on all makes and models? So you take in just about anything?
American Asian, 2000 and up. And even with that, I have full discretion to turn something away. It's F350 and down. So we don't work on the big stuff. We're sticking to what we're good at. So luckily here, we have a Ford Master Tech, a GM Master Tech. So I try to split them off. They get only Fords, only GMs as much as they can. Oh, that makes it so much money. And then I got another A-Tech that's just an absolute god of, he'll turn 80 to 100 hours every week if you let him. But he's now the shop foreman, so now he's turning like 40. So it's like, ooh, that hurts.
So what made that change come up, Jeremy?
The A-Techs?
To make him foreman like that, you were saying,
I was the foreman. Mm-hmm. We opened another shop, so I went to the other store, and then he was my main A-Tech here, and I would check things out. I was averaging 27 hours, and I would feed him and the other guys. So everybody made a butt ton of hours, and then I went to the other store to help it get up and going. And then when we lost the manager at this store, that position came open. They hired somebody. It didn't work out. It's like, man, it started losing money, and it's like, man, I worked my butt off to build this store up. like I'll be the manager almost as a, like, if nobody else is going to do it, dang it, I'll get it back up. So I came back over as manager, and now he's a shop foreman, and I can't figure out a good way to get him back up to turn, 80, 100 hours. Mm-hmm. So we moved him to like a salary position and paid him off total shop hours.
Yeah.
So
he's probably a big proponent. Like he's probably a big factor in your quality control, right? The foreman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm lucky because my shop has, I think, probably the best group of techs out of any shop, probably in northern Indiana. It's kind of crazy. I mean, we hired A-techs. At one time, we had 5 A-techs, and that was it. We didn't even have a B-tech or a C-tech. So we were doing quality control to all of a sudden, we really don't have to do quality control anymore because we don't really have that issue because all of us are a little older and don't care about cars, and we don't make the same mistakes. So you're not leaving things loose. You're not leaving fingerprints on anything. So all the stupid little mistakes that, you got a QC, we didn't really have that issue. So it's like, well, it's not QC and just hang and bang now. So
what, Jeremy, what do you think about the guys that say when you're running a shop, you don't need or don't want a shop full of A-techs? Like, do you follow into that line, or do you say that that's a bunch of hogwash?
I think you could do it either way. Our labor cost is higher than what, certain coaches would say is ideal. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you have less comebacks. You have proper diagnosis. You're not giving things away. You're turning more total hours. Shop morale is typically higher. I think it's a better way. Like my shop, I had A-techs and 1 B-tech, but my B-tech was probably the fastest guy I'd ever seen with no comebacks.
Right.
Like me and him would race the old E150 vans. I would do one side of the ball joints. He'd do the other side in 15 minutes, man. We were banging them out. I mean, we were gods in the suspension world back in the day. So, I hired the best, and I think rather than try to save a few bucks, well, let's get a couple C-techs in here and have them work under your A-tech. If you're not careful, you'll bring that A-tech down. Your A-tech's not an A-tech no more, and he gets frustrated, and he's not really training the guy. If you got an hourly shop and you got an A-tech with a good C-tech, that typically works out better from what I've seen because he's not trying to rush through it. He's not just having that kid test drive all this crap, put it up on the hoist, pull the tires off, and then he goes and bangs it out for hours. That's where just a shop full of A-techs can make you so much more.
Hey, if you could do me a favor real quick and comment on, and share this episode, I'd really appreciate it. And please, most importantly, set the podcast to automatically download every Tuesday morning. As always, I'd like to thank our amazing guests for their perspectives and expertise, and I hope that you'll please join us again next week on this journey of change. Thank you to my partners in the ASA group and to the Changing the Industry podcast. Remember what I always say, in this industry, you get what you pay for. Here's hoping everyone finds their missing 10 millimeter, and we'll see you all again next time.